Canadian trade and business leaders are in Toronto today. They are looking for ways to boost our country's economy during a tariff threat pause.
It is important for Canadians to reflect more at the present time about diversification of the economy. It's also about breaking down internal trade barriers.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is hosting the Canada-U.S. Economic Summit. Trade, business, and provincial leaders all there. They're talking about a couple of things, including how to expand Canada's international trade beyond the U.S. They're also looking at dismantling interprovincial trade barriers. Lots on the agenda, lots to get to. For more on what we can expect, I'm joined by Sylvain Gauls. He's the Global Trade Partner at EY Canada. Thanks for coming in studio.
Thanks for having me.
Representatives of your organization are going to be at this summit. Very important to the country right now. What are they going to put forward on the table?
I think, like all stakeholders attending, the expectation is we're all about what is the best way forward. That's domestically, so interprovincial trade barriers, trying to identify those, resolve those, and then internationally encourage any strategy that invites and stimulates international trade. So that might be free trade agreements, that might be expanding on existing free trade agreements.
Such as with where?
So Canada and Europe, for example, or Canada and a number of Asian countries and Australia, the CPTPP. Canada's signatory to many different free trade agreements already, but maybe there's more we can do. Maybe we can expand on the scope of the products that are included in those agreements, or maybe we can introduce new agreements, negotiate new agreements in new countries.
We know that, obviously, the U.S. is our #1 trading partner. It's a large market for us. They're right next door. Shipping is relatively easy. But when we're looking at finding a new #2, where would we be looking?
That's a tough question. It really depends, I think, on the business, on the products, the market, the consumers that buy what Canada has to produce or grow and ship. So I would say Europe, I think, is the obvious sort of next biggest market today. But who knows? In the future, that could be a different region, could be a different country.
What's our sell to Europe then, as Canadians? Because obviously they've got trade agreements with countries that are closer to them as well. So what is it that we have to sell to these global markets that would make them want to start importing from us?
Yeah, fair question. I think so. Sometimes natural resources, we might have an advantage that's just fairly obvious. And then I think secondly, it's going to be what are Canadian businesses going to be able to produce, innovate, improve on. I think that's going to be a lot of the strategy when it comes down to the businesses involved, expanding their markets, finding new ways to expand or in some cases survive.
There have been a lot of calls to eliminate these interprovincial barriers and regulations that we've had in this country for years. That's going to be discussed heavily at this summit. Where do the provinces stand right now?
Well, I think different provinces might have different perspectives, but I think what we have to appreciate as a country is these interprovincial barriers, it's a real mix of all sorts of administrative things. These are jurisdictionally provincial matters in many cases, so licensing, movement of goods sometimes, people who can work doing what they do maybe in one province can't do it the same way right away in a different province. So I think hard for me to answer what the provinces are each thinking, but I think everybody would be agreed in this moment. We need to find some common sense. We need to find a way to liberalize and simplify.
Canada's energy minister made a case to develop a Canada-U.S. alliance over energy and rare earth minerals. President Trump, we know, has gone on the record many times saying he doesn't need our energy, but does he need our minerals?
I think he does, or I think industry in the U.S. does. That's our understanding, and I think that's an opportunity to, let's use the word negotiate, or maybe simplify some of what's escalated very quickly in the last little while.
Yeah.
I think precious minerals increasingly important to all international trade.
So that could be one of our key sells then?
I would think so, yeah.
Okay. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is going to be in Europe on the weekend. I can only imagine the meetings he's got lined up for that. What kind of trade alliances could he be looking to either strengthen or start new?
So I think that will vary on, again, industry specific. So I'm not sure what the team going overseas is going to focus on most. But I would think, again, I would think building on an existing trade, which is voluminous in some sectors, but maybe addressing sectors where there's more to go. I think that, I would think, is the strategy.
One of our strengths in trading with the U.S. has been manufacturing on both sides of the border.
Of course.
They do some, we do some, and it works out well for both of us. But Donald Trump has said repeatedly he wants manufacturing based solely in America, and that's what he wants to do, is have other people come and buy from them.
Right.
How do we buffer against that?
Yeah, I think it's always going to come back to today, and for many years already, very integrated supply chains. Some sectors more than others. Automotive comes to mind right away. Very, very hard to disrupt that, take it up, reposition it entirely into the U.S. if that was the agenda. Very, very hard to do. And I think businesses are going to push back on that. They've got a good thing going. The supply chains work really well today. And if we can get back to a place where we've got this largely frictionless trade, then I think businesses are going to thrive.
Frictionless is a good word that I want to pick up on. Two of the largest markets, aside from the EU, outside of our partners with the U.S., are India and China. These are both countries that we have right now tense diplomatic relations with. What will we have to do if we are looking for global partners to try and move forward in those markets? Those are the big ones.
I think find common ground, common interest, right? Trade is always like that. Business is always like that. So I think there's going to be lots of opportunity to find the common interest. What economic activity can we participate in together? And, multi-stakeholder benefit, right? I don't want to use the word winning, but, we want to trade with countries that will benefit from trading with us. And then we, of course, need to look after our own interests.
Right. And what would success coming out of this summit look like?
I think a concrete plan would be terrific, something actionable right away. I used the word common sense earlier. I would like to think that common sense will prevail. And so let's deal with the quick wins. What are the things we can address quickly, get those done, and then there'll be some harder things, and let's have a plan for those.
Those are our measurables. Okay, well, we have Anita Anand, I think, coming in next week, so hopefully we'll have lots to discuss with her. Sylvain, we appreciate you coming in today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.